Thank you very much, Michael, and a very good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. We're coming to you live from Sarova White Sands Beach Resort and Spa in Mombasa County. My name is Lillian Muli. Tonight I'll be sitting in for Terry Chebet. Before we get into our topic of discussion tonight, players in the tourism sector have been faulted for high costs of products that have seen the sector's growth stagnate. At the tourism summit held today at the coastal town of Mombasa, Kenya Airways, the national carrier, came under pressure for its high air ticket prices compared to other carriers. Let's listen in.
But truly, if we must be lifted at that cost, we have spoiled KQ, because 10 years earlier we bailed them out. The government is saying, please fly KQ, but we are babysitting KQ for too long.
To come here, 21,000, 26,000. You can use that money to go to Dubai. Why fly to Mombasa?
They need to listen to stakeholders. We mean well. And we want the airline to succeed. And we want them to move as fast as we are moving.
That we did have quite high prices. We have reduced the prices. What I hear is that it's not reduced enough.
Prime Minister, you're thinking.
I think there is a demand from the client that we are overpricing our products. It's more profitable you are 80% occupants at a lower rate rather over 40% occupants at a higher rate. That is very important. We need to appreciate.
Right, and as you've heard from that clip there, Kenya remains an expensive destination from hotels to airlines. Now, Kenya is one of the biggest and most diverse tourism destinations in East Africa and indeed the world. However, in recent years, challenges in the sector have negatively affected the country's tourism. The government now says after significant setbacks, the sector is in full recovery. But is this the case? What are your thoughts of the state of tourism in the country? Once again, we're asking you to join us in this conversation using the SMS number 22422 or tweet using #CitizenBusiness. My guest in studio tonight, Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Najib Balala. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Also with us this evening is the Managing Director, African Quest, Tasneem Adamji. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
And apologies from our third guest this evening, that is GM, CEO, Heritage Hotels, and Chairman, Kenya Coast Tourist Association, Mohammed Hersi. He was not able to be with us tonight. He sends his apologies. I want to begin with you. As you heard at the summit earlier today, Kenya remains an expensive destination from the hotels to the national carrier. How has this affected tourism in the country?
Well, first of all, if we want to be a good destination, we must be affordable. And this is what the issues we have raised today in the summit. And we don't want to be cheap neither. Yeah, so we want the numbers because this is a big country. And really, as a big country like Kenya with a good product of beach and safari and additional products that we have, to only get 1 million arrivals, foreign arrivals, it's too small. And that's why we have a plan of 3 million to 5 million we can handle.
So you are accepting that the national carrier has actually had a significant impact in the international arrivals into the country?
Of course, any destination that needs to be successful must have airline accessibility. And this is challenge that we are limited because we are a long-haul destination. Countries like Morocco can benefit because they are near the source markets. We are a long destination and we need affordability on airlines. And that's why now we are giving incentive to charters because they bring the numbers. Yeah, we want to encourage more scheduled airlines, and that's why we are saying by 2017 we have a fully fledged open sky policy for Mombasa as well.
And concern from our viewers is that the Kenya Airways, the national carrier conversation, has dragged on for so long. Have conversations been had between the relevant stakeholders to see an end to the pricing menace that Kenyans are currently facing, particularly the domestic tourists?
Well, I think we are taking domestic tourism for granted. We are not enticing them to come, probably because we have been just too dependent to the foreign tourists. But when there is a major hole in the market and we don't have the foreign tourism because of many factors, then definitely we need to look at the domestic market. We have seen the potential of the African continent because there is high spending power. The middle class is growing very fast. So from West Africa, from South Africa, And the biggest market for us from Africa is South Africa. So what we are saying is that we in the government and have directed Kenya Tourism Board to look at Africa as a major component. We have seen the jump in numbers. 2005, Africa was at 16%. Now it's almost at 26%, yeah, of the market share. Yeah. Europe, that was at 57%, now is at 37%, a 20% drop. We want to value our traditional markets, but we want to appreciate that there are new markets and potential like Africa and the domestic market, so we can not only fill the gap, but take them as serious markets.
And we'll be talking more on domestic tourism and concerns therein. Please keep sending in your questions regarding the state of tourism in the country. Tasneem, I want to ask you as hoteliers how the exorbitant pricing by the airlines has affected the industry from your perspective.
I think first of all, let us talk about exorbitant pricing, because there's a perception and there's a reality. Perception is we're expensive. Reality is we're expensive because we have, one, very high cost of taxation, and two, high cost of utility. When you look at the coast, and you look at the cost of electricity, and look at the cost of water. By the way, we don't have regular water supply to most of the coast here. You have to buy your water, then obviously that's going to add on to your pricing.
So that trickles down to the consumer.
Correct. Yes, it does. It does, because that's a component of your fixed costs. Now, when you look at airlines, and if you look at, again, segregate Mombasa vis-a-vis Nairobi, because Nairobi has a lot more airlines going into the hub, as a hub. Mombasa is not a hub. It has traditionally been a charter destination. It's only today, thanks to two airlines that fly in international, which is Turkish and Ethiopian, that bring us a diversified consumer base here. Those two airlines are affordable vis-a-vis our national carrier. Our national carrier doesn't even come in from anywhere else in the world to Mombasa. So obviously, we're looking at them flying in to Nairobi and then connecting to Mombasa. Now, when we look at domestic tourism and why, you know, years ago, we used to have a fare from Kenya Airways called the Msafiri fare. That used to allow a domestic consumer for 2,000 shillings to fly the route Mombasa-Nairobi and therefore take affordable holidays. Today, it costs you anything from 10,000 upwards to fly Kenya Airways.
And we'll be talking a little bit more on that. I want to come back to you regarding the government's scorecard in revamping tourism. What have been the wins for the government currently? And I'm talking about the current government.
Well, we have gone through many challenges. We had our numbers on top in 2011, 2012 was a record year. Yeah. Eventually, we went through elections, and then the Westgate came in. So the tourism perspective of what has affected the country has drastically affected the tourism sector, and that's why the number jumped. And I've shown the numbers on the screen in the morning. 233,000 arrivals on Moi Airport in 2011. In 2015, it's 75,000. You could see almost 200,000 disappeared. And because travel advisory is affected, yes, security was a key issue, and then infrastructure. What has the government done? Has put security right, has invested now in the infrastructure. These things are long term. And tourism to come back is not going to be an overnight thing. We are doing our best. There is a 14% increase in Mombasa and Nairobi. So overall, almost 14%. Yes, for this year, for the last 6 months actually. But it's not going to be an overnight. The increase is fine from what 2015, which is our lowest levels. But this investment of security, and we have seen how things have happened in Tikat, so people getting assured now there's security. Then there is the infrastructure. You have seen the road to the airport, which is pathetic. It was pathetic. Now there's major investment going on. Yeah? And not only the airport, there's 100 billion shillings that have been invested for the coast region for infrastructure, because it has been neglected for many years. That it will have an effect Not today, but in 2 years' time when this infrastructure is ready, you'll see now the effect of tourism going up.
So I get the sense that you're acknowledging that there is a decline. We're currently facing a decline. I want to outline areas that are still wanting in as far as government pledges, and this is coming from a lot of reactions coming after the tourism summit held earlier today. Somebody saying the government promised to introduce incentives and improve infrastructure to encourage high-value tourism, but the road network, Masai Mara, Mombasa, Changamwe, Meru National Park, the roads are terrible. So somebody here saying the government has failed on that pledge. Somebody also talking about the government promising to promote alternative income of communities living around game parks and wildlife reserves to ensure they are not a threat to natural habitats. Poaching is still a challenge. Thirdly, as I wound up, just to sum them up, somebody here talking about increasing KWS capacity and designing an elaborate KWS-based intelligence to monitor animals and deter threats to parks. But recently we encountered roaming lions and again, poaching. We know there are fewer elephants. And finally, Kenyans working in corporate, and this one is a very serious one, Kenyans working in corporate and business entities were promised that they would enjoy paid-up vacations in the tourism sector. 25,000 Kenyans will be given a chance to go for a week's holiday every month at the expense of their employers. And these are promises that remain elusive as far as the Mwananchi is concerned.
Lillian, first of all, infrastructure, and I've said 100 billion Kenya shillings. Yes, these infrastructure are being done now. If you talk about Changamwe, it's being done now. As we talk about Masai Mara, Sekanani, we have tendered, we have just awarded. The contractor should be in the next 3 weeks on site.
So Masai Mara is
on course. So we are spending almost 3 billion for Masai Mara Road. Originally, that was a county council thing until the new constitution came in. So to adjust and to convert it to a national road takes a bit of processes so that we can be able to finance it and budget it. And I can assure you in the next 3-4 weeks we will see activity. And I will go myself to Masai Mara to inaugurate that project with His Excellency the President to make sure that it's on track. The same thing with the roads that we have talked about, the airport. Yes, there was a problem before, but this government, the Jubilee government, has come in and invested 3 billion shillings again with the help of the British government and Timea. We are doing the road, and it's going to be ready in the next 12 months.
What about for those commuting by bus? We don't assume everybody travels on air. So what about those that are commuting to Mombasa by bus, the nightmare they're facing along that highway?
Well, at the moment, I want to assure you that road is really good. Apart from the diversion at Taru, the road is perfect. But yes, that road now takes 10 hours because of the trucks. You know, we don't have a rail line. So all the cargo trucks, and you are aware that the port has increased its efficiency and the delivery to the neighboring countries. So if we used to have 300 trucks a day, now we have 1,500 trucks a day. So all that goes to a single lane to Nairobi. And that's why it congests the Nairobi highway. But I want to assure you, in May next year, you'll see the standard gauge railway working. 60% of those trucks will be offloaded to the standard rail, SGR, as well as passenger. It will be safer, it will be efficient, it will be faster, and it will be not cheaper as well.
Tasneem, I want to touch on the fact that because of the pricing that we touched on, a lot of international and even domestic tourists are opting to travel to other countries, perhaps even in East Africa. But then there's also the concern on the state of Kenya's existing hotels. Most are old. What are your thoughts on the state of Kenyan hotels? Are there any plans, do you know of, to bring in international hotel management brands to help set international standards?
Again, we have to look at two segregated products. So we have to look at the coast, and then we have to look at upcountry. So we've got the big name brands already in place in Nairobi, which are all new developments. We've got the Kempinski, we've had Intercontinental Hilton for a long time, Radisson Blu, etc. How do we get those to the coast? Now, let's admit one thing, is that we have a tired product. We do. But we're in a vicious cycle as well. When there is no business, how do you put money back in? So your product will tire out. And you have to look at the history of how the coast developed. Many of these hotels started in the 70s. So they are plus 40 years old. And that is the key factor here. And then cost of borrowing, financing in this country until most recent development has been absolutely impossible. If you borrow, you cannot run a hotel. So cost of financing is a problem. And therefore, because of this...
Do you want to respond to that?
Yes.
Lillian, I want to say, we appreciate that. And let me tell you, I salute the private sector and the hoteliers of this country, and particularly the cost. They have been resilient to the volatility of the sector, because it has not been easy. Since 1997 till now, it's really bad for them. So we have come with this new concept. The President has brought this new concept that we will facilitate a credit line for the hoteliers. And we have just concluded some discussion with the African Development Bank. We are yet to formalize it, of 10 billion Kenya shillings. And then we are going to call the beach hotels. And we're going to start with the beach hotel because it's really tired. They're letting us down now, but they are making an effort.
Timeline?
Timeline. In the next 3 months, we will conclude with African Development Bank. We'll be able to now formally allow. And we are saying, don't think it's free money. It's going through commercial banks. We want to cap it at 6% so it can be affordable. And then we give you a condition. Not anybody coming and apply for that money. The older you are, that's the criteria, the more easier for you to accept.
Priority.
And then we are going to give you what we want changes in those hotels.
Does it sound like one of those promises, government promises?
You know, I really want to say this with all due respect to the minister and the government. Okay, this is a great, welcome thing, but we'd like to see it happening.
Give us
sooner
time.
than later.
Give us time. We'll let it.
Because I also want to touch on, you know, we've had some great goodwill from government, especially last December with new incentives. Some of the incentives have taken more than 6 months to actually get effected. For example, the VAT removal on park fees. We're still waiting for the finance bill to go through. So what happens is we go out, we promise, we're not able to deliver.
Yeah. And are you marketing the countries? I mean, the assumption is from a lot of Kenyans that Mombasa is the ultimate tourism destination. But what are you doing about far-flung areas like Turkana, where the governor has actually taken it upon himself to host a cultural festival annually? There's a lot of areas that are little known to Kenyans. There's Samburu, there's Isiolo, there's Nanyuki, there's the Meru National Park, which a lot of people are not even aware exists. There's Kisumu. What is your ministry doing to market Kenya as an entire package and not necessarily just the coast?
I appreciate, Lillian, that the people who will develop the products and new products are the counties. And that's why we have created this new policy framework to engage with the county governments and appreciate what they are doing in terms of cultural festival. But this festival does not necessarily attract international tourists for the time being. You need to build them up. They need to get a reputation. You need to have the experience of managing them. And we are ready as the Ministry of Tourism to give them technical support. I am visiting these counties. In October, I'm going to visit NORAD, or the North Rift counties. I'm also going to visit Kisumu and the western side to engage with them and be able to find mechanism how we can be able to give them all the support they require. I believe in devolution. I believe that we need to engage the county government so that we can help them and help this country to develop the product, because they have the product and they have the people on the ground and their potential. And I've been to Turkana. It's an amazing place. If I have a choice to where do I go, I choose Turkana as my #1.
Interestingly that you touch on the county government. Of major interest on social media tonight was that the county government of Mombasa was not represented at the tourism summit, and the synergy between the national government and county government, where the mandate of the national government ends, where that of the county government begins, and why there was an obvious snub or lack of invitation or representation, and that is what was felt from the Mombasa County government. Well,
first of all, devolution is going to work. These are the teething problems we are experiencing because we are only 3 years old in the constitution implementation. But this evening we were with the county governor of Mombasa in opening the Kongowea market and also Makinon market. These are the partnerships we have established. I have been here in Mombasa and I've held meetings with the CECs of the counties from the 6 counties of the coast. So I've held meeting with them, I've discussed meeting. In fact, the World Tourism Day in September 27th, we are going to do it here at the coast in Kilifi, in Malindi. So these are the relationships we have established. It's unfortunate that the governor was not present today, but
did he receive an invitation?
No, let me finish.
I mean, without really narrowing this down to why the governor did not attend?
Well, it's unfortunate that he could not attend, but the most important thing is that when I started engaging with the CECs in the counties, I received a directive from the Council of Governors, Mr. Munya, and he said I should not be dealing with the counties. I should be dealing through his office.
So you did not,
I obliged.
So you did not invite Governor Ali Hassan Joho?
So I obliged. I invited the county and telling them we have a tourism summit and will be more than pleased to receive their representation. Governor Tunai, who is the the governor of Narok, and he is the chairman of the tourism sector on behalf of the counties, and he was the one who was sent as a representative of the governors of this country.
Right. Tasneem, I want you to assess currently the state of tourism in the country from where you sit as a hotelier. What is the way forward in terms of an action plan and timelines that you feel should be given so that we can actually get this on course? We can get the country's tourism sector back to its lost glory.
That's a tough one, because we have a situation where we've had an extended low trend compared to the years before when we had low trends for various reasons. So it's been 3.5 years. And in this 3.5 years, what has happened is that we've lost the glory. We've sort of faded out of the radar, the international radar. Now, to get back into the radar, on there, outside, you need to spend a lot of money. So that's marketing, which was not forthcoming in the last 3 years. It's only happening slowly this year, this new financial year. In the meantime, our source markets are going through tough economic times. So we're back to a terrible cycle where the source markets are suffering, we are suffering. Therefore, we have to now come up with extremely innovative ways to fill up our hotel beds, to fill up our safari beds. The cities we're not really worried about because that's corporate world. They kind of find their own. But it's everything else that's leisure that's going to take some time. Now, ideally, we'd like to say between now and next year, anything that you do for tourism, your time frame is 2 years. Because for you to be able to recover fully, it's 2 years. Now, we've lost this season. We've got elections next year. If the media, for any reason, is out there splashing whatever news they have about Kenya, which is not very positive, we lose another 3 years. And by then, we'll be totally in the grave. So what we are saying is that we really need concerted efforts from all sectors, private, public, government, to ensure that we're sending out the right signals and to ensure that the money the government has committed towards Kenya's marketing, the dollar that's going to be spent in this financial year is not washed down.
Right. Okay, thanks for your thoughts. As we close, again, today's exercise by pundits criticized as a PR exercise because people really want to see results. An action plan, very briefly, on how you intend to develop tourism. What are the timelines? Like Tasneem said, and again, just echoing what a lot of people are saying, is that innovation is more important right now than big budgets. We know conference tourism is currently working. But what have you put in place to ensure, once again, like I asked Tasneem, that the country regains its lost glory in the tourism sector?
Well, the principle is that there is a goodwill from government, and that is what we are working on. And all the positive incentives given by the government are rolled out. So we appreciate that we did our part as the executive. Then there is a parliamentary process like the VAT issue. Now it is on the table of the president to sign it. In the next couple of weeks, we will see the rollout of the VAT, for example, waivers on the private sector. That also will trigger positive recovery. What we are doing is that we said the innovation is not coming from government. The innovation comes from the private sector. We are only facilitating in terms of policy and tax incentives. We have almost doubled the budget for Kenya Tourism Board, and we have given them the mandate to go out and give us a new strategy for marketing this country. We are waiting for the board to implement. Money is there available of 1.5 billion Kenya shillings. Before they used to only get between 600 and 800 million. Now it has been doubled, and that is what we are expecting. A feedback from the institution of marketing and tell us what they are doing. But yes, I think we need to be more proactive. It's not about pointing a finger at government. We accept sometimes we have been back, but this time there's no excuse. We have been forthcoming, and that's why the issue of promoting Kenya as a business conference tourism, business tourism, and we have done all from WTO to UNCTAD to now TICAD. And I have taken a responsibility. In the next 3 months, I'll come up with the stakeholders to show them what do we have to expand what KICC could have been doing better.
Just in summary, how many visitors are we expecting this year? Can you give us a projection? Are we expecting more bookings from domestic tourists or from international visitors?
Well, domestic tourism has increased from, it was about 40%, now it's about 57%. It has increased in a good way. International markets, I've said, it's about 14% increase in the last 6 months. So the trend is going up. So we expect from 1.1 million arrivals in 2015, we should expect another 1,300 to 1,400 visitors coming in by end of this year.
You agree, Tasneem? A projection from just looking at trends and what's currently been happening in terms of booking?
No, I don't totally agree, because we have a slowdown. Starting middle of September, we have a slowdown. We hope to pick up for the winter, which is the European winter, and that means from about Christmas time, which will also mean Christmas time pick up for domestic tourism as well. If all remains status quo, security, infrastructure development, which are all positive, if we're spending the money in the right markets, so that we're getting the consumer awareness out there, we can expect an additional 10%.
An additional 10%?
Yes.
Your closing remarks?
Well, I think let's establish a coordinated way of marketing this country and running the sector, because that is critical. The partnership is very important. And now there is goodwill. And we have done our part as government. I think it is the time from the private sector to be dynamic, innovative, and also to appreciate their new markets available there. They should run for them, rather than waiting for government to lead. We have formed parastatals where driven by the private sector. 80% of parastatal members of the board are private sector. And we give them the free hand to give us the ideas, and we finance them so that they can be able to deliver.
The youth are actually, we're closing now, the youth are calling on your ministry to reach out to them. Social media is a powerful tool. They're willing to market every destination they travel to, but they need to be aware where they need to visit. Thank you for making time for Business Center, and many thanks to the panel tonight, Cabinet Secretary Tourism Najib Balala, and of course Managing Director African Quest Tasneem Adamji. We've been coming to you live from Sarova Whitesands Beach Resort and Spa. On behalf of the entire Citizen TV crew, we extend our thanks to the GM Sarova Whitesands, Raj Jadaf, and the amazing staff here at Whitesands. I'm Lillian Muli, and on behalf of the Citizen TV crew here in Mombasa County, Lala Salama, thanks for watching. Good night.